Hello everybody, my name is Matt. This is Second Shot Garage, where I basically save vehicles from the junkyard and bring them back around, give them a second chance at life. Actually, the vehicle we're working on today, it's actually the newest vehicle we own. It's the family ride. It gets everybody to where they're going and groceries and all that. And we had a rack and pinion go in it here, and I noticed there's not a lot of videos online, so that's why we're bringing it up, to show you guys what you got to do, because a lot of these videos on here aren't showing you what you need to do. They're missing a lot of key components that will make you struggle and have a lot of downtime. So hopefully my video will help you out and make it a lot easier, and you can get it done in a day or two. All right, let's get into it. Here's the vehicle we're working on. It's a 2014 Jeep Patriot Latitude 4x4. It's got the better transmission supposedly from what they used to have. So that's a plus with it. It's got the 2.4. Really, it's not been too bad of a vehicle. I mean, I've done a lot of replacement on front end parts, especially the A-arm or wishbones, whatever you want to call them, between the ball joints and the bushings on them. It just seems to eat them up. Even having alignments done regularly, it seems to eat them up. And I've done the CVs, I've done the wheel bearings all the way around. I did the dog leg in the rear on the one side. Up until that point, this steering rack and pinion is like one of the more major things that's failed on it. And what a lot of people are realizing is they start leaking and you don't even see it. Mine wasn't leaking too bad. What made me think that mine was bad and made me look into it deeper was the steering was just acting real funny. It was darting from side to side. And then there's other times where you'd go from a dead stop and the steering wheel was like, you could tell like both sides were fighting each other to go right or left. And at that point, I kind of realized it's got to be something with the rack and pinion, because I had replaced everything else in the front end up until that point. But how I'm going to show you how to work on this is how I'm going to show you how to work on this is I'm actually putting the thing back together in this video, because when I was tearing apart, I hadn't decided I was going to do YouTube yet. So me showing you put it back together is what you got to do to take apart, just reversed, and then stick to the end. I'll show you the main problem with working on this thing, the number one thing that's going to hold you up. Yeah, here's this bracket in the center that holds the cradle up, and it's a 16 millimeter bolt there. And most people try to use it like a ratchet wrench, but I tell you what, the ones I have anyhow, it's too wide. So what you got to use is let's see if we can bring it in the picture here. What you got to use is a 1/4 inch flex head ratchet. I got this on Harbor Freight, and I have the adapter to make this go to 3/8 drive to use a 16 millimeter socket, and you just set it in there like that, and you just turn it like that. It makes it so much easier. On the back side, this is the back side of that same mount. You have two 16 millimeters there as well, and the ratchet will work good there as well also. You don't have to take the top mount out. I see a lot of guys, the couple compass videos I seen, the guys were taking that top one out, and oh boy, you want to talk about a job. I just leave it well enough alone. You take these two back ones off and the front one, and that mount will just hang there, and this cradle will drop down. And then the other thing I didn't show you, I just got these lines back on, and boy, they're a bugger. If they're corroded like mine were, especially the pressure line because it's on the bottom, even if you use a line wrench, let's say 18 millimeter, I even have a flex head one here, and it was just round the nut. So what I ended up doing was I ended up buying they're called diesel fuel injector sockets, but they're like a line socket, and luckily the kit comes with an 18 millimeter, and I'll show it to you right here. And see, it just goes on your ratchet, 1/2 inch drive, and see how it's notched out, to fit on the line and go on there. And I tell you what, that made all the difference in the world getting those off. And without it, man, I tell you what, I probably would have had the nuts rounded off and would have had a hell of a time. So these things are a lifesaver. I'd say the only thing it kind of stinks is their 12 point, which, ideally you'd want 6 point, but just to do this, it works. And I'll leave a link in the description of this tool. I got it off Amazon. Toolbit makes it. And I tell you what, it's a handy little tool to have when you get on lines like this. But other than that, the only thing you have for your lines here is there's a little bracket that goes in like a pop-up thing. And then you just take that out and pull it out. But that's all the more you got to do back in here. All right, I'll get back to you here. All right, here's this heat shield. Ideally, you want to take this off when you drop the cradle down. There's two 10mm bolts on the front of it, and then back around the side here, down in, like you can't even hardly access it from the cradle being up in, as a 13mm. So ideally, you want to take that off and on once you have the cradle drop. What happened to me was I lost the two 10mm bolts over here. So I had to go to the U-Pull-It yard to get another two, and so yeah, they're accessible with, you know, with the cradle up in, and you have that 13mm on. You can do these two 10 ones out front. You know, that's up to you. And same deal. This is a nerve spot where the little quarter ratchet flex head comes in. I mean, it fits up in there. This is one place too. I imagine if you had the gear wrenches, you know, they would work as well. All right. And I wanted to show you guys too. See, when I put the cradle back up in, I didn't put it all the way. I just cinched up a little bit and left a little bit of a gap. That way it makes it easier to put the lines back on for the rack. And in that bracket I showed you in the center, it just makes it gives you a little slightly more hand room than if you had it up tight. So you don't really want to tighten it up until this point after you have that stuff on. So now I'm going to tighten it up. These two bolts here and here on either side, they're 18mm, and I'm sure there's a torque spec for them, but I just tighten them up with the ratchet, and I grab my big breaker bar that I use to break them loose, and then just give them a little extra tug. All right. Okay, I'm back up to the front here where we got to put this strap back on. Well, it's a motor mount slash strap that you have to take off in order to lower the cradle. And you really want to put the cradle back on first and then this, because the back piece butts up underneath the cradle. And the engineers are crazy on this. You're going to need 3 different sockets. For the bolt way in the back that hooks to the cradle, you're going to need an 18mm. For the 2 shorter bolts that go in the front here, you're going to need 15. And then the bolt that goes through this is 16. So yeah. All right, I'll get back at you when I get this up. When you get that bracket up in, that's what it looks like. It's basically just a strap that runs back to the cradle. Initially, I thought this held the motor up. I was leery about taking it down out, but really it doesn't. I mean, you still got a couple other mounts that holds it up in there, so it's okay to take it down out. You don't have to worry about the motor dropping on you or anything. But there's the couple bolts right there I was telling you about, and you got the one on the top going through the mount, and then you got the one single one there back on the cradle. All right, next we're gonna put these sway bar links back on. I ended up having to get new ones because I get the old ones off. What I had to do was get a pair of vice grips down in between the boot and the bolt and hold the bolt to get the nuts off, because what they did was they put a 3/16 Allen head inside the bolt so that you can hold it to spin the nut off. It's like, I guess, an extra fail-safe bullshit thing. But the problem is, you live in the Rust Belt like me, they seize up really bad, and you get that Allen head in there, and you can't even use a ratchet Allen head. You have to use just, you know, an old school like little bar. And what happens is it strips out. You know, it's just too corroded. I even sprayed them with a PB and, you know, let them sit for a bit, and even still. And if you use heat, you're going to damage the boots anyhow. So, you know, you might as well just figure, if you're going to do this job, you're putting new sway bar links on. And it's probably just a good thing as well. They get kind of crappy, and like this one here is slightly bent. The old one, I don't know how that happened, because this thing's never been off-road, but somehow it got bent a little bit. But yeah, some guys try to do this job without taking them off, but in reality, it kind of screws you from getting the old rack out. Doesn't give you as much room, so you're better off to take them off. It's a 15mm wrench that does the nut, and a 3/16 Allen head that does the inside of the bolt. And looks like the new ones from Precision. I got the Precision parts from all rallies. Looks like they're the same thing. So, well, let's get these on. All right, guys, the next thing we're gonna put back on is the tie rod ends. Now, this is one of the first things, other than the wheel, that you should have taken off. And I just replaced these recently, so mine weren't too bad to get off. But what you'd kind of like to do, I know a lot of guys are against this because it's messy, but this is one part you want to be able to turn freely and not seize up. And so I put some anti-seize on the threads, you know, and where the nut's at, so that way when you go to try to line it, or you ever got to take it off or anything again, it's easy. You know, you're not sitting there half a day trying to get it broke loose. And it's also another part, you know, yeah, people say, oh, use some heat, but you get too hot, then you ruin your boots. So a little anti-seize goes a long way for preventative maintenance, you know what I mean? And yeah, mine were 22 turns on, so I'm gonna turn this one on 22 turns. And then this side here, for whatever reason, doesn't have the cowsill nut with the cotter pin, it just has a nut. So I'm gonna put some, where'd it go there? Some blue Loctite on it, just, you know, for extra help, keep her on there. All right, guys, this is the part of the video where I'm really gonna do you a solid. This will save you so much time and hassle showing you this. This is one of the main reasons I made the video as well, because nobody's gonna show you this. Nobody's gonna go to the lengths that I did to show you what I'm about to show you. All right, when you go to put your steering universal back on from your steering shaft, none of the videos show you how this goes on, and what you'll learn out real quick is there's only one way this thing goes on, but the problem is the access cover they give you, you can't hardly see anything, especially if you're like slightly nearsighted like me. So what I ended up doing was I went out to the U-Pull-It yard and cut one of these off, and yeah, don't worry, I didn't waste a steering shaft. It was on one they were getting ready to smash. I'd sold a lot of parts off of it. But I had to do this because for the life of me, I couldn't figure out how it was supposed to be oriented. Everything I tried wasn't working. And what it is, you'll come down around to the shaft here, and I have this one clocked about where it should be. And see how, like, there's a chamfered part there, and then you come around and see how, like, there's a notch there with a little, here, I'll see, get you in there. A notch there with a little round hole. Where that's at, you come back around and you're facing this in the vehicle, this universal's got to go down on there right like that. Has to go exactly like that. And what it is where that's notched out over there. Let's see where I laid it here. Where that's notched out over there, this bolt has to go right where that's notched out. And also the other thing you want to pay attention to is on the universal, see where it's indented, see how the bolt will kind of go in first, you know, slide in a little bit. You got to have it like that as well. You don't want on the reverse side where it just starts the thread, because that won't work either. You want on this side, you'll see the indentation where the washer goes, and then you just screw that in and you're all set. I mean, it doesn't sound like much, but I tell you what, when you don't know this, see, I'm used to the old steering where it came out to the box, you know, the shaft come down to the steering box and you just fit the splines from the collar onto the box. I'm not used to this shit where it's like down in a hole underneath the brake pedal and you can't hardly see what's going on and how this is supposed to be oriented. The other thing I want to bring up is you'll want to make sure you have it clocked, both the steering wheel and the do this before you even put it in the Jeep. You know, I imagine all of them are the same, but mine was 3 turns clock to clock. So you split 3 in half, so it's 1.5 turns that you want to go to find center on your rack and pinion and your steering wheel. Now on the steering wheel, when you go to turn it lock to lock, be very careful, because if you jam too hard, you'll break your clock spring and you got a whole new mess of problems. But show you that there, and then we'll come over here to the Jeep and I'll show you where this is located at. It's down here. I don't know if you guys will be able to see it or not, but it's, you pull your carpet back and it's back in here is where your thing's at. And what I did differently was when I was pulling the cradle down, I just let the whole thing drop down and I unbolted it outside of the Jeep. But I think really initially You want to unbolt it inside here, you know. It don't even try putting it on the outside of the Jeep either, because I tried that. That doesn't work. You can't get the right angle. You basically gotta set the cradle back up in, get everything bolted down, and then come in and put it, you know, put it on. But doing that, I mean, like I said, doesn't sound like much, but it took me a long time to figure this all out. And that bolt that holds that universal on, it's a 13 millimeter, and what I used was an offset wrench, because when you get down in that hole, it's really hard. Even like my little 1/4 inch flex socket I showed you earlier in the video, it doesn't even do well down in there. You basically have to have an offset 13 millimeter wrench if you want to make it easy on yourself. Or I would imagine if you have a flex head ratchet wrench, it'd probably work just as well. But the only other thing I have going on since I did this was I had to go get it aligned, and I took it to a very reputable place to get it aligned, and I figured they could sorry about that, guys, you know, new to making videos. I thought those guys could get these lights to go off. I have 2 lights that came on since doing this. Here, I'll fire the vehicle up so you can see. But you'll have 2 lights that'll come on. You'll have your airbag light and your traction control. And what a lot of people are telling me what it is you gotta take that to a dealership and get it reset. And me personally, we just spent all this money redoing the front end, plus the rack and pinion, plus another $107 for an alignment. I mean, we're just tapped out, so we're just gonna run it as is. I mean, the vehicle doesn't steer any different or anything. You know, as long as you get your alignment done. Like before I did the alignment, I kept wanting to dart to the right really bad, especially if the roads were wet, and getting the alignment fixed that. So yeah, the lights don't really do anything. I think in all honesty what it means is you don't have an airbag and you don't have traction control, which, you know, it's up to you. Me personally, I don't really care for either one of them. I'm used to having older vehicles that don't even have that stuff. So we're probably just going to run it like that for now, and then maybe eventually, you know, if we have some extra money, we'll take it into the Jeep dealership and have them recalibrate or do whatever it is they got to do to get them to turn off. But the guys at the alignment shop basically told me that I would be maybe facing a possibility if I took it into the Jeep dealership, they would want to redo the alignment. Well, heck, I don't want to do that. I just spent $107 already getting it done. And like I said, the Jeep's steering and running perfect. I mean, there's really no reason to do it again. But I figured I'd give you guys that heads up. I mean, maybe you can just, if you have that happen, just directly take it to a Jeep dealership to have it recalibrated and do the alignment then. And then that way it'll save you the hassle. Me, I was just trying to save some money because the Jeep dealership here is very expensive compared to like some other mom and pop shops that do the alignments. But yeah, well, all I guess I could tell you is good luck. Godspeed, huh? That's what a lot of people tell me, Godspeed. But let's say you can do it in your driveway. It's a pain in the butt. I mean, you know, if you've never worked on anything in your entire life and this is your first project, I don't want to discourage you from doing it, but I'm not gonna lie to you, it's a pain, especially if you don't have a couple tools I pointed out. So well, if you guys have any other questions about it, just hit me up down in the comments. And hit like and subscribe if you could. Help me out. I think I'm gonna get this channel going and show some different things. Bye.